I can't believe that we are already coming to the end of 2022. It's been a long year. It's been a better year than previous years. In this episode, I want to share my 10 most popular podcast episodes, newsletters, and articles. And I'm going to hit the highlights of all the other hundreds of newsletters and episodes and talk about some changes I made this year, which you may recall. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Career. So here we are, the end of December 2022, and I hope it's been a better year for you too. Definitely been a better year for me. I feel like things got a little bit back to normal, not 100%, but certainly better than the previous years. And I spent a lot of time again this year, hundreds of hours doing research and writing the newsletter articles and recording podcast episodes like this to share with you, to share my career advice, my professional development advice, the exercises and challenges, leadership advice, little entrepreneurial stuff, but most of that moved. I'm going to talk about that. So I want to dive into it and share, I guess, the top 10 in terms of engagements and likes and comments and shares. And then I also went ahead and categorized most of the other articles and episodes to be useful to kind of break those down. You can always check these out if you want to see the entire year in review. If you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, this is issue number 422. Yeah, that's a lot of issues. And this is my 10 most popular episodes and articles this year. And just a quick shout out. I don't ask for this very often, but if you found my advice and articles helpful this year and you would like to support my continued writing and podcasting in 2023, please consider an upgrade to a premium membership of my newsletter. So if you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, you can subscribe. There's a free option, but there's also the ability to have a premium membership. What does that give you? What does that give you? Well, you get access to my private Invincible Career community. So you get to join about 130 other people that are also ambitious professionals. We all support each other. We provide advice. We answer questions. We help people with their upcoming job interviews, looking for jobs, writing resumes, looking at their portfolio, dealing with, troubling coworkers, dealing with toxic bosses. We've all been there. We've all done that. It's good to have a powerful network, and that's what that community is all about, and you get access to that. You also will receive weekly professional development challenges and exercises. I'm going to talk a little bit about those. But those go out every Monday. And then also every Monday are the exclusive office hours that are only for premium members. So people are able to go into the Slack channel and ask questions. I answer. Other people can answer too, but get specific answers to the issues that you're dealing with. So if you want to do that, that would mean a lot to me. Your support really helps. Thank you. So let's go ahead and talk about this end of the year wrap up. It summarizes and categorizes everything that I created in 2022. A lot of people do reach out through LinkedIn, Facebook, even Instagram, you name it, Quora, and they ask for advice. They ask for advice on their career, on stuff at work, leadership issues, entrepreneurial topics. And when that happens, I've usually talked about it before. I can point them to a specific article that I've written on that very issue. How to ask for a raise, how to ask for a promotion, how to do a remote job interview, how to start your own business, you name it. And you may already be a loyal listener, a loyal subscriber to the newsletter, but I know it's easy to miss something, right? We don't catch every single thing that comes out every week. And so this is a chance to kind of hear something and go, oh, I missed that article. I want to read that. I know I can't keep up with all the newsletters I subscribe to, so it helps to have this recap. If you think it's useful, if you know someone that might get some help from the things that I've created, you can feel forward to share this podcast episode with them, to forward the newsletter to them. So without further ado, let's jump into the top 10. So I took a look at the stats for the newsletter and the articles, the episodes, and these 10 rose to the top. Number 1 was use your purpose to manage stress, anxiety, and depression. A lot of people dealing with some of that this year, in the previous years. And having a purpose helps you rise above everything, helps you rise above the day-to-day. So that's what that article was about. Number 2, this is always popular, talking about your wins for the week. So this was introducing the community chat feature on Substack. And if you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, you can see that. And people had a live conversation chatting about wins for the week, sharing things they were proud of. Number 3 was talking about how to instantly make Twitter better. Boy, did that change this year. Yeah, this was a very interesting way to make Twitter better for you if you're still using Twitter. And boy, it kind of went off the rails entirely at the end of this year. So I don't know how I feel about that. Number 4 was called Follow the Money, but that's how you can find jobs that are about ready to hit the job market but haven't been posted yet. Great way to be the first one to apply for a job. Number 5 was how to land jobs by building relationships in a remote world. And it is more challenging, but there are ways to do it. And when you build these relationships and have the right network, it's easier to get jobs. Number 6 was a chance for everybody in the community, the listeners, the subscribers, to introduce themselves. And that's kind of the point of a network. It's hard for us to help each other. It's hard for us to help you if we don't know who you are, if we don't know what you're trying to accomplish. 7, 5 things you should do every night. Every night. Some things that I do every night, some things you should try every night to help you sleep better, be more productive, and be more successful the next day. 8 was an interview with someone I know very well. That's called Doing Work You Love. I interviewed my brother, Dr. Chris Cornett. He's a spine surgeon. Really interesting because I have some listeners who are budding medical professionals. Some want to become surgeons. It was how he got into it, what his life's like, what it's like to be a surgeon, how he continues to advance his career. Number 9 is an important one. It's how to create your own career ladder. Some companies are good about this. Many are not. Even if they have one, it may not be perfect for you. So this is about creating your own career ladder that is independent of a specific employer, but so important for you to get the most that you possibly can out of your career. And number 10 was some of the tips that I share. This was called Always Be Looking. This is how you can always be looking for an opportunity. And you should be. You should constantly have opportunities flowing your way. You don't always have to take interviews. You don't even have to take a job offer. But it's nice to have the opportunity, isn't it? But you have to always be looking. So I did make some big changes to the podcast and newsletter this year. I had found that I was writing on topics that kind of split the community a little bit. And so what I decided is to refocus this podcast and the associated newsletter on career, on your professional development. So the Invincible Career is very, very focused on career again. And I created another newsletter and podcast around solopreneurship. So for those who are very interested in starting their own business someday, I did a spinoff and created something entirely new so I can go really deep on business topics and issues. And then I created another one that was much more around personal development called Invincible Life. So it's around personal development, not professional development. And they do overlap, but I know people get tired of me talking about health and wellness and fitness and how important that is and life, love, and happiness. So that all went over to Invincible Life. So I want to really talk through the rest of the stuff that I wrote. And I've thought it'd be helpful to organize everything I wrote in the podcast episodes into some categories just to kind of break those into things that are easier to scan. A big category this year was all the book chapters that I wrote and shared. I shared a number of book chapters on this podcast. I did transition all of that to my new Invincible Life podcast, because when I talk about building the Invincible You, it does go beyond professional development career. I mean, it is about work and life. There's more to life than work. And I don't think you can have a successful career or a happy life unless you find the right balance and focus on the different components of that. And so that's why I moved the book over there and started sharing that around June, I believe. June this year is when that happened. But I did have a number of chapters that I shared here. I kicked it off talking about the book, building the Invincible You. And then I had a chapter on becoming invincible and what I mean by that, and what that means in terms of being able to call the shots in your work and life and be able to do what you want with your career, to be in control, to be able to do what you want with your life. Do you know what that feels like? Do you know how important that is? Another chapter, assessing your current situation. It's hard to make a plan if you don't know what's going on right now. The next chapter was defining your vision of the future. What do you want? What does your ideal career and life look like? What are your goals? And then what's standing between you and that? That was the next chapter, identifying your blocks and barriers. So what is stopping you from achieving your goals, from reaching that vision? Next chapter was embracing the best you. After that, I talked about identifying those audacious goals. So specifically, what are your long-term goals, midterm, short-term goals? And then the next chapter was creating your winning strategy. So what is your strategy to pursue that goal? How are you going to make that happen? And then after that, very important, how do you execute that strategy? So it was making your achievable plans. What is your roadmap to success? Long-term plans, 1 year, 6 month, 3 month plans. How are you going to make it happen? And then I had additional chapters that went into habits and went into all kinds of stuff. And those, I think there were 7 additional chapters that went over to Invincible Life. You can find Invincible Life on various podcast services like Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I've published it there. And I linked that in this newsletter. If you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com and look for these top 10 articles of the year, I've linked Invincible Life. All right. I had a section on career planning and performance. There's the interview with my brother, Chris, around planning his career, creating your own career ladder. And then I talked about something that was about following your purpose as an employee. I think sometimes people think that I only recommend following your purpose as a solopreneur or business owner, but that's not true. You can have a life purpose, something that drives you, motivates you, and inspires you as an employee, but you have to work for the right employer. So I talked about that. Talked a little bit about planning and a different way to approach planning, which I think is pretty interesting based on some research. Is called Your Future is Unpredictable. And it is, but it is a method of using time cones to be able to go from things that are a little fuzzy, a little unpredictable, into narrower cones of specificity, like what is really going on right now and what do I need to do tomorrow? And then another popular one was doing some Q&A with the community. So people sent me some questions around planning their careers, around their professional development performance. So I answered those questions. Then I had a pretty good section on job search, job interviews, negotiating offers, all that kind of stuff, right? So I talked about landing jobs through building those relationships in a remote world, went into a lot of details there. The follow the money, which is really about startups raising money and announcing like their seed or Series A and what that means in terms of the job opportunities that are coming soon. And then a really important one, how to safely job hunt today, right now, while you're still employed. and doing that in a way so you don't get fired later, right? Very real issue that we all face. You shouldn't have to quit your job before you look for a job, but how do you do that safely? So I talked about that. I had one that was about being loyal to yourself, that you should be loyal to yourself first, long before your loyalty to an employer. And that means always being open to opportunities. And then later in the year, I talked about the job market flipping yet again. It was an employee's market. A lot of people were quitting, the great resignation, quiet quitting. People had a lot of choices. They could look at multiple offers and negotiate. Job market flipped. Lots of layoffs, the recession in the US. It's an employer's market again, so I talked about that. And then I had a section on success, and one that I kicked off, I think it was in January, was burning your to-do list this year. I don't like to-do lists. I have huge to-do lists that are never done. The only thing that works is something that I shared in that article, Burn Your To-Do List in 2022. An important one, how to build good relationships in a new job. How do you hit the ground running? How do you ensure you're going to be successful? And how do you build those relationships? Because that's what it's all about with your new colleagues, your new boss. And then somewhat related, remote work and power dynamics. Remote work does change things. It does have an influence on power dynamics between managers and employees and how you manage politics and things like that. And so I talked about that. And then I had an article about how to market yourself to get the attention you want and deserve. And this is an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people, but there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it that doesn't feel weird and gross and dirty. And that will make sure you get what you deserve. You get promoted, you get raises, but you have to, quote, market yourself. People need to know you exist. I had one about living your best life, a section. One which I thought was important is that you deserve better. This kind of bleeds a little bit over into the life coaching that I've started doing. Talks about some personal development, but I think it applies to your career too. It applies to your professional life. Too many people settle. Too many people put up with bad stuff at work. Bad behavior from a toxic boss, negative behavior from some of their colleagues, some of the people in their life. Life's too short. Life is too short to put up with that. You deserve better. And I wrote all about that. And then I published something that I thought was an interesting look back, that remote work has saved me about $150,000 over the last 10 to 12 years. $150,000. Getting rid of a daily commute, not going to an office, but working for myself and being able to mostly work at home. It's crazy. You should do the math on what work is costing you. This is about living your best life. You know what you could do with $150,000? Quite a bit. You can make some good investments with that. You could pay for your kids' college. You could spend time and invest a little bit in your health and wellness like I've done and be able to work out every day, which has probably saved my life. That's why it's in living your best life. And then I used to have a section on solopreneurship and entrepreneurship, but I heard from a lot of diehard employees, they were tired of hearing about that. They're like, stop talking about starting a business. I don't ever want to start a business. I don't want to deal with it. I just like to have a job. I just want to work for somebody. Well, your wish is granted. That is in a completely different newsletter that I launched this year and podcast. It's called Invincible Solopreneurs. And it's all about how to transition from being a 9-to-5 employee to being a solopreneur, what it takes to run a business, ways to get customers, how to market yourself, using various tools and resources, the tech stack that I recommend. So you can read all those articles and subscribe to that newsletter and podcast. You can find it, Invincible Solopreneurs. It's linked in the newsletter. Had a section about life lessons. before I launched the other newsletter. One was called The Gift of Rejection, which I thought was fascinating. And I've seen this happen time and again. A friend of mine just talked about it. They were laid off from a job and they were panicking. They had about a year to figure things out before they'd be deported and have to go back to their home country. And they're like, what am I going to do? Do I get a job with another employer? Do I start a business? How can I do that? How can I make sure that I'm going to be able to make enough to support myself? And it was a stressful time, but she's never been happier. She's been doing this now for, I think, 10 years. And that rejection, that layoff was a gift. It kicked her out of her comfort zone and started her down a whole new path where she's free. She's thrilled with what she does to make a living now. Had another one about losing your career ambition. This was about an article someone had written. I shared a link to it, where I think the stress of the past few years and in some cases kind of a life and death situation with some people put everything into a clear perspective. That a job is a job. That work is important. You got to make a living, but you should never sacrifice your life, your happiness, your personal relationships for a job, for an employer, even for your career. And this person said, you know what? I've lost that driving ambition and I am reconnecting with my family. I'm reconnecting with myself. I'm getting my health back. I don't know why I gave it all up. I don't know. It's an interesting perspective. And you are an Invincible Career subscriber, so I don't know how you feel about it, but you might want to read that article. I think it's a wake-up call. As I mentioned, I do have the Invincible Life newsletter, which covers more life lesson stuff now. It's about living your best life, life planning, creating more self-confidence, becoming empowered, pursuing freedom, getting your health back, your health and wellness, and being happy. It's about being happy. You can subscribe to that newsletter and podcast if you're interested. And then I had a section about personal and professional development. One was interesting. It's like, what do people say about you? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? And this is kind of touching on personal and professional branding. And I don't know how you feel about that. Maybe you hate that phrase. Let's say reputation. You have a reputation. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. And how do you manage that? How do you deal with it? How do you find out what it is? I had another one, which is about making sure you are in control of your online destiny. And this was, your account has been suspended. This is when Facebook suspended my account. And I was like, uh-oh, I better figure out a different way to run my business. And then another one, which it comes up again and again, this question, 5 ways to build your executive presence. A lot of people are told, hey, we'd love to promote you into leadership, or we'd love to promote you into an executive role, but you just don't have executive presence yet. And they're never super clear about what that is. I think often it's just an excuse. Well, I dive into that. I talk about how you can literally build your executive presence and put that to bed and make sure you command the room and you get that promotion you deserve. And then I had an entire section on networking, trying to be smarter about networking, not the dumb, boring networking. Let's see, people introduce themselves. Had one that kind of took off crazy on Twitter. This was Seth Rogen's take on networking. He and I had a bit of a disagreement. And I love Seth. He's an interesting character and he's been successful. And he said, it's not networking, but I'm like, dude, all of your roles, your movies and the stuff that you've been doing, the movies you're producing, it's with your network. You got a lot of these roles because of people that knew you or were friends of yours. That's networking. It's not cocktail party schmoozing, but that's not what I consider networking anyway. It was funny. It really took off. And then a whole bunch of tips. So I shared a bunch of tips. I'd like to start doing this again in 2023. It got hard to keep up with when I was running 3 newsletters and podcasts. Let's see, there's a bunch of them. One was called Stand Up. and I'm not going to go into the details on that. Follow the money, check your face. This is an interesting one about your face. Career double dip. That was fascinating. It's how people are leveraging their work experiences, like their daily commute or what they do at their job, to create a following on social media. One guy who worked at an ice cream shop and shared all of it on TikTok, and it got so many followers, made so much money doing this, building this huge audience, that he was able to start his own business and build his own ice cream shop. I mean, wow. And it happened because he was just sharing stuff on TikTok. There was one called Message One Person. So it was something to do this week. Message one person from your network. Following your school on LinkedIn. So many of us don't leverage our school network, and we really should be. Treating your career like a business. Knowing when it's time to bounce. Like, when have you made enough, or have you been successful enough with an employer and it's time to move on? How do you know when it's time to move on? Feeling more confident instantly. And then a good one, which is kind of tying into my solopreneur stuff, but how to build a lifestyle business in 30 days for less than $30. Very popular. A lot of people liked it. Some people got angry and shouted at me about it. That's fine too. I love hearing from people. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if you're a premium newsletter subscriber, so you can go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com and subscribe to be a premium subscriber, you get the weekly professional development challenges and exercises, and then you can join us in the office hours every Monday. So this is a quick rundown of what we did week by week this entire year. What are your goals this year? Breaking your big goals into sub goals, creating a plan to achieve your goals, leveraging your calendar, writing the story of you, creating your elevator pitch. How do you introduce yourself? Documenting your strengths and weaknesses, defining your professional brand / reputation, why you need a website, and then some really pragmatic stuff, how to find a domain for your website, how to design your website, and how to publish material content on your website and get it out there, and then sharing your website. And then writing, posting to your personal blog, your Forever Home, publishing on Medium, which I encourage, cross-publishing your writing. Obviously, I write on Substack in my newsletter. Learning about self-publishing. They say that a book is the new business card, and it's easier than ever to self-publish. And then I did talk about newsletters, researching newsletter platforms like Substack, creating or choosing a platform, deciding which one you want to use, identifying what you're going to write about. What is your focus? What is your thematic topic? Building your audience, and then talking about social media, how to use it instead of it using you, getting more out of LinkedIn, which we all should do. I talked about the creator economy, how everyone can participate, sharing a portfolio, and a lot of people can have a portfolio, more than you think. It isn't just for designers and artists and photographers. Auditing your professional brand. This is that whole thing of finding out what people think about you. Assessing the progress of your plan for the year, reviewing your metrics, like how are things progressing, how are you performing, learning about Google Analytics and how you can put that to use for yourself. And then you've been looking at progress in your metrics, so then you need to adjust your plan. Most people do. How do you course correct? How to build a powerful network. I recommend, this is probably one of the most important topics I cover every year. A network enables so many things. It has enabled so much success in my career. How to nurture and reignite your network. How to connect with new people. Finding your online communities or even offline communities. Upgrading your public speaking skills. Everyone benefits from public speaking. How to find speaking events, online and offline. How to host a workshop. And I've been talking about that with my solopreneur community. How to sit on a panel. That's a great way to test the waters with public speaking. Sitting on a panel with other experts. It's not nearly as stressful. Using networking to practice your communication skills. How to be a guest on a podcast. Hello. This is a podcast. And there are a lot of podcasts looking for guests. And again, it's a great way to get your name out there. People know who you are and what you do, and to practice your elevator pitch, to practice having a conversation professionally. And then if you're ready, hey, planning your own podcast. It is easier than you would think. Super easy. Looking at podcasting solutions, recording a test episode for your podcast and sharing it to get feedback. I did that with my community. This is why I have the office hours. People do this stuff, they share it, they get feedback, and we all get better. And then talking about video, choosing a video platform, whether it's YouTube or Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts now, Vimeo. I don't know if we're still using TikTok. Who knows? Choosing a theme for what you're going to share with your videos, and then actually doing the recording, editing, and publishing a video. So we do that and share it with each other. How to grow your audience, specifically around video. And now we're getting into the end of the year. So there was a challenge exercise around being ready for the final push, trying to get the goals done for the rest of the year, capturing the achievements this year. And this is all about documenting your accomplishments that you're going to need for your performance review and for yourself, doing a look back on the year and seeing if you're happy with how things turned out. And if not, what are you going to do differently next year? Okay, that's it. That's a lot. Anyway, I hope this summary, especially if you look online at newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, it's easy to scan and find an article that might be useful to read or reread if you've already seen it before, and then share it with a friend who might be interested. You probably have a friend or loved one who is looking for a job. You might have somebody that's trying to avoid a layoff. Maybe you have a friend who's trying to start their own business in 2023. I'm happy to help. That's why I write this stuff. That's why I spend literally hundreds of hours doing this. And I look forward to doing more of it. That's why I love doing this. I love helping people. And I'm looking forward to writing more articles. I'm going to interview new guests next year, record new episodes. If you have suggestions for topics you'd like me to cover in this podcast, send me a message. I'm pretty easy to find online. If you look for Larry Cornett, you can find me on LinkedIn, or if you go to newsletter.invinciblecareer.com, you can leave a comment. Super easy to hear from me. And by the way, I have no employees. I don't have any employees. I don't have any interns. I don't even have an assistant at this point, although I am thinking about it because I'm getting a little busy. And these newsletters and the podcast, it's a one-person labor of love. I mean, this is my passion. It's how I earn a living as a solopreneur to support my family. So if you found my advice to be helpful, if you'd like to help support my continuing efforts to produce the podcast, please consider subscribing to the premium weekly newsletter. And I am offering a holiday special. You can save 50% if you join before the year ends. So it's a limited time offer. You can get 50% off for a 1-year premium subscription. And I have a link to do that. And that will give you access to my private career community, as I mentioned, the weekly professional development challenges and exercises that I email every Monday, and those exclusive office hours every Monday that I do in that private channel. So I just want to thank you for being a loyal listener this year, for all of you that are tuned in, listening to my voice. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. And this is probably the final episode that I'll be putting out this year. So if I don't hear from you again, I want to wish you a happy holidays. I hope you can take some time off, get a little rest and relaxation in, spend some time with friends and family, and take care of yourself. I'll talk to you next year. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck in becoming an opportunity magnet for the best things in life.